Weka iende hapo, sukuma link hapo. Episode 73. Mama mia.
Yeah, man. And we live, guys. This is Free Flowing Saturday.
Episode 73.
Episode 73.
Unbelievable.
Have we done a year of this thing or not?
Huh?
Have we done a full year? When did we start? I think we've done a year. 2022, is it? Was it
Uangalie your timeline inasemaje since we started.
Let me check.
What is it saying since we started? How many months? But I think, see, if we say 4 episodes per month. Yeah, umepita mwaka bwana.
Yeah, the first one
73 by 4. It's more than 12.
Yeah, it's more than 12. The first one we did was in...
wow. There's an echo from your end.
There's an echo from my side.
I think. Hello, we are showing behind the scenes before the show officially begins.
We're already live though.
So, wiki imendaje? How's the week been?
Wiki imeenda poa. Oh wow! Did we start on New Year's Eve? I feel like this is the first one. 31st of December. Let me check. Maybe this is not really ordered. Seems like the first one was in New Year's Eve, 31st of December 2022.
What? Because 73 episodes, if you say 4 episodes per month, because there are an episode per week.
Sorry?
So
okay.
I'm saying we do one episode per week and 1 month has 4 weeks. So it's technically 4 episodes per month.
Per month, yes. So would have been what, 60 episodes in 1 year?
Yeah.
Yeah,
so we started. That. Well, just do 73 divided by 4.
Exactly.
So it's way beyond 1 year.
Yeah.
Woo! Let's go.
So how are things in Kenya?
Kenya, I think it's time for
like a year and a half.
There's been the usual noise about the presidential appointments and whatnot. But you see, our younger brothers and sisters, they restricted their war on the streets. they did a one-prong attack. They didn't do a two-prong attack. So while another group in the street, another group would have been sitting down the head of state, providing an alternative method to how we do these appointments. Although when you look at some of the sentiments, they'd say, why should we negotiate with the government that is, they say, killing its people? But my take was this: you're not going there as you don't coin it as negotiation. You coin the list of demands or suggestions. So first order of business would be, I would say, you suggest ways in which these appointments are done before they get to parliamentary level. And as I said before, CS is a very important position. It's like a head of department in a company. When you are hiring a head of department, it's actually an interview system. It's actually a very powerful for companies which work well. It's actually a very rigorous system, even if you may try to headhunt. Sometimes the person headhunted has to be also be passed through the same system. It's like in football, you get a player from another team, is highly recommended. His stats are very good, but he has to pass a medical. Sindio? If he fails the medical, it's of no use to them. So my take was the CS positions, they should be announced to the public together with the professional requirements for the job, so that all professionals, and they should make it very clear, it should be closed out to politicians. Then that is where the AI comes in. You are in the age of AI. Why don't we implement some of these technologies whereby the AI system will sort of do the sifting through analysis of facial expressions, speech patterns, previous records, and even look at how you present your CV, how you write your CV. The system will analyze, will compare your speech patterns and how you write your CVs to see if this thing will yandikiwa ama ni wewe. Make it, because what are we doing this technology? Why are we not harnessing this technology to our advantage? It's like you a car has come into the market and you still continue to use a donkey cart. So this tech is available for our use. Then after the AI has sifted through these people, take it to parliamentary level. I'm very sure if you can go through the AI net, you literally whitewash the parliamentarian, because I don't think they are highly technical people. You literally run roughshod over them. Then you get into position and you do your work. But in the usual,
But Brian, I think we need to be a little more practical. Politics is about relationships. Politics is about even when you go into an organization, particularly a senior role like a CEO or directorship, as much as the people that you find there are competent people that can deliver, you sort of want to build your own kind of a kingdom. And many a times that kingdom is built with loyalists. That's the reality of the matter. This is the reality of the matter. Having said that, of course, you can't just bring some bonocos just because you're just loyal.
What you're saying is 100% true. It is absolutely no argument against that. It's true. But the question is, has it worked for us? That's the burning question.
No, that's true. I was listening to this, even that interview we showed last time of Abdul Nasir. I think there was an earlier point where he was questioned. The reason why this guy seems to be insisting on his people, he fired them, but still brought in the likes of Murkomen, the likes of David Chasile, the likes of Duale. And even after swapping Duale, it's like the guy is still there. And you never know. Even in the background, he could still be running the Ministry of Defense. It's just that on paper, it reads someone else. but in the kitchen cabinet is involved, maybe because it's got certain competencies and all that. But what Ahmed Nasir said, which I found very important, is as much as you want to reward some of these people that either helped towards your campaign, there are people you want to keep within your kitchen cabinet. Normally, what you do is you gift these guys ambassadorial positions, because those ones are not that contentious. People will not question, these things you're saying. Can that person deliver? Does he have at least some level of domain knowledge? What is his leadership style and the likes of that? So, if you still want to reward the Murkomens, you want to reward the Duales, you want to reward many others, give them a position somewhere in government and then, bring in those technocrats, as we say, to not be able to run very key functional areas of government. Having said that, sometimes leadership is not uh, being good at having that speciality so far. You definitely need to have a level of domain knowledge in the role that you're governing or you're managing or you're leading. But you'll have technocrats. That's why PSs are very purely technocratic people. But a CS is more of a very leadership role. You need to be able to know how to direct people. You need to know how to, push forward a vision that you set out with the help of the technocrats in terms of them giving you that domain specific. And yes, you should be able to know some level of that area enough to know what kind of questions to ask. So those are sort of the thinking that I think we need to bear in mind as we consider all these things.
Yeah, that's why I made it clear. For me, I believe in technology to a large. Not, I believe in harnessing technology. I've attended various what you call online interviews, and they'll make it clear this stage will be subject to some machine learning system or an AI system. Then the second stage is where you, it will sift through. And uh, see, that's why I said whatever has been implemented in the recent appointments is the same old system which gave us the same old outcomes. And the time when the president said, okay, bring in your ideas, and our brothers said, we don't want to negotiate and whatnot, that me seemed like an emotional response.
Correct.
Hmm.
That's
Because
exactly what.
it turned out to be, and you see, I'd rather give out my suggestions and they get turned down rather not give at all. We normally say uh, putting in an effort will give you some percentage probability of succeeding. But if you do not, you put zero effort, there's 100% probability you'll fail because zero outcome is equal to failure. Like if you have to do exam and the outcome of your exam is equal to the dollars you're going to receive. So the number one 100% gets $100, 50% $50. So the guy who comes in and he really struggles and he gets 20%, that's $20 for him. But he who fails to turn up for to sit the exam, that's $0. So that aspect of refusing for a sit down, because yes, it was named a negotiation, but you could come in and say, listen, we are changing the narrative. Don't call it negotiation. You're giving it a bunch of suggestions on how to run things. And when you
I
are
mean,
get this opportunity, my take is this: do not come up with what you call blanket or generic statements. I don't know, good governance, the corruption. That is extremely generic.
yeah.
Okay, how do you define? Because last time I checked, if you want good governance, vie there for the position. Then govern, because the president's idea of good governance and your idea are completely different.
Mm.
And let's face it, the guy who sits on the steering wheel is the one determines vile gears zitakuwa shifted. The best you can tell him to do fata hii njia ama fanya hivi. But when you say good governance, when you say we don't want
It's
corruption,
good governance.
and if we tell, let's say, we don't want corruption, and we say, okay, listen, why don't we do this? Using my powers as head of state, I'm clearing the entire court schedule for you for the next 2 weeks. Present any cases of corruption in court to one appellate end. And all you have is simply social media posts and maybe a few newspaper clippings here and there. So work on issues. Have what you call one. You have what you call a percentage knowledge of what the outcomes are going to be, and that's where technical based solutions come. Because when you go there with a host of technical solutions, assuming the president is not a technical person, that means the president will now be forced to retreat and bring in his technical team. Then it will be
No, I mean,
you.
I guess what you're trying to revise, they need to be quantitative. And I think
Quantitative,
if you
yes,
see,
that's the idea.
if you saw
Quantitative.
the message from Raila that he sent last Saturday, was it last Saturday? It was the 21st. Yes, it was the 21st of July.
Mm.
He really put, let me actually share the letter, and you can see it for yourself, and then the viewers can also see it. How very specific. And this is what these so-called Gen Zs have not done. And partly I've said they need some adults in the room. I mean, maybe adults in the room might not be the good term because it might sound a little more condescending, but it needs certain people to provide some guidance. So look at this. I would like to address you this morning. I agree that justice must come first before any talks. Towards this end, I stand with you there. Towards this end, I stand with you that there must be, number one, compensate every victim of police brutality. Very quantitative element. People can come up with a list. How many people have been either jailed or gone to the hospital? They have been injured. I'm sure that list can be produced, and they can be quantified in terms of how they have been aggrieved, how much it has cost them to relieve, and maybe if there's any kind of even any relief to be provided, monetary terms. And compensation means monetary terms. Dismissal of all protest related cases. If there's a case in court right now about the protest, let's start on a clean slate. Release of abductees, resolution of the outstanding healthcare and education grievances. What are those grievances? I'm sure we can bullet those down. Revert from NHIF to shift a prosecution of all security. Again, very quantitative, and this is what we've not seen from the so-called protesters. We need very direct. It seems like the protest in and of themselves have become an end to it, have become an end in and of themselves instead of the protest lead to something. The protest leads to your voice has been heard, you've been recognized, you've been called upon to take a seat at the table. And then you can now see these broad-based elements: good governance, corruption. There's no way what is good governance? I'm sure, yes, we can put some markers on it, but it's not like that. You can't go out saying these are the things that you're championing.
But as you
Yes,
can see, he has
you need
he
to
has
now
tactfully he has tactfully brought them after.
exactly.
After.
Because now he says, and this is now, they even changed the term from the national dialogue to the national convention. So he said, once we deal with these issues, let's have that conversation as a nation. Let's have that conversation. Let's have a convention now, where now we can start speaking about those aspects of good governance, where we can now say, okay, OCSs need to declare their worth, and even these things are already there in the current
This
constitution.
is
But then now start seeing where the breaches have been happening, and maybe put it now, even say, okay, every CS is entitled to 2 or 3 chess cards. They should only have one chess card. We should have it's now putting those things in terms of good governance to start controlling the high expenditure. Each CS will be allocated 2 cars. Each CS will be the president also will cut down on his entourage. There can be those kind of things. Will now buy a particular type of vehicle. No one goes, this is the brand that we can provide even specs that the engine size should be this, that the current brands that we are going for are even now we can start pushing for the Kenyan produced car. What was it? Mobius.
Mobius.
So it's this kind of very direct things we can start putting in. One thing that I saw with this current crop of ministers, I saw they were self-promoting themselves. Like I would notice during public holidays, somebody will put a message with his face on it, congratulating, happy whatever, happy Christmas. There should be a law about self-promotion with government. The government is not like private sector. If you wish to have that kind of self-promotion, go into private sector. So, and I'm sure these things probably are somewhere. They might be already outlined, but people, that's why I feel, partly a lot of these CSs, as much as the government was blaming other people, many of these people get their cue from the president. When they see a wasteful president, when they see a corrupt president, they follow suit. If the president immediately was to say, my cars will be 4 or 5, that's it. I don't see any CS having more than 2 or 3. You can't compete with your boss.
If people were wise, I don't know if it's possible, but some of these ministries should have been all placed in one building, except for maybe defense. But most of them, one floor after another, one floor after another. Because it's administration, right?
Yeah,
and with the
I think
advent of paperless offices, why do you need an entire building?
Maybe one building might not be enough because also, government is the biggest employer. So where would you put all those?
That's where we have a problem now. With the advent of paperless office and automated administrational operations, you would want to consider some things. You would want to consider situations whereby you serve your own tea with a kettle and water there in tea bags. Serve your own tea. Maybe the guy the person heading the department, maybe the CS will have his own tea garden, but the rest of you need any chai. It's very much possible.
It's actually very interesting you're raising that issue because the office I work with, and this is a very American style culture. What they do is they'll provide a kitchen which will have a fridge, microwave, and those things. Even the cup that you have is your personal property.
Yeah, you wash it yourself, rinse it.
You wash it every time and then 2, what they'll do, they have of course a cafeteria where you go buy your own tea. The cafeteria or the contractor who has been given is an external resource. Is providing employment for the people hired there. Again, that's not their employees, just a contractor has been given a space to support the people that are there. It's a very American style, but it is very vital and a very good culture to create. Because I know, just imagine how much money we waste with tea and mandazis.
That's why I say
10 o'clock. There's one, I think, at the 4 o'clock. Probably there's one lunchtime. And those teas are so expensive actually. Si tuliona ni gavana mgani aliambiwa ati soda amenunua soda ya 1 million.
1 crate 1 million.
1 crate. Haikuwa soda yote ya kila mtu.
No, 1 crate iliuzwa 1 million.
Tell you the same thing. Even when you go for this,
when you go for
this, just to show how government is very in terms of their usage also. Over and above getting that of your getting your own tea at your own cost and washing
Yeah,
your own whatever. Even when we go for this stuff, whatever, there are some that are self-sponsored. They don't sponsor that. They'll just say, okay, yes, we need to have a staff get together. Kuna zile wana sponsor, but hizo there are very few. They are like 1 or 2 in a year. All the others they will encourage, but it will be at your cost because they are cognizant you're using taxpayers'
taxpayer.
money. This is where these are the areas where you can. Sorry, there was like a mosquito there. These are the areas that people steal.
As I was saying, it is very, very possible to have one building with we have 21 ministries, 21 floors. One floor, okay, we can put defense can be on their own, they handle sensitive information, but the rest we can actually fit them per floor. 20 floors, one floor, one ministry. Automated systems, automated. There are some, in fact, automated administration systems have been there for quite a while. Some of this information can be available through what we call digital boards. A digital board, you can go online. You can go to the. You can even maybe go to the ministry. There will be a digital board you can get it without even going up the lift.
Actually, what they would do is maybe the services that are need to be provided to the citizens, all those, and I think that's the whole idea of Huduma service. So I shouldn't be to like a Ministry of Education or a Ministry
Yeah.
of
Everything
Health.
compacted under. Yes, now with the Huduma Center, it's actually very possible to have the one floor per ministry setup.
Yes, so Huduma is in another area. So
Yeah.
anywhere they're interfacing with the citizenship, that's a service bit,
By Huduma
and
Center.
that should not be in the administrative
Yes.
building where you have the CSS and the people
Yes.
that craft policies.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand what you're saying. I get it. Probably practically it might not because there's and even remember when you're introducing technology, there's also some mental maturity to go with it. So, but having said that, yes, there's a lot of wastage, and probably all these structures that we have, maybe now
I'll give you an
government should
example. I think in
renting out.
Denmark,
Yeah,
someone was in a building. I think the minister they wanted to see the minister for education came for a visit. They came in one, I think in a 1995 BMW,
Mhm.
5 of them in one in the vehicle, and they didn't have a designated driver. One of them was driving, and then the PAs came cycling.
That's a mature society.
Yeah. The PAs came cycling.
We need to get to that level. They get into
But
trains.
Here Minister Akija, you'll notice SUVs all over. Mtajua mkubwa amekuja. So what happens is when under such a situation, the mentality of servitude to the people is completely removed even from you. Where hata kwa mfano you put in that situation, they give you SUVs that hata ukiride you are always above other people. Unajisikia mimi hamwezi niambia kitu, with the flags fluttering all over the place, bodyguards and what not, and red carpets and all that hula baloo. Wewe mwenyewe hata the spirit of serving people inakuondoa kusema hii matakataka hizi niambia kitu.
Exactly, and and you can imagine that's what bred that arrogance. They're not servant leaders. They now thought they lord over us, and it is true. We need to get to that level where you don't get into government to enrich yourself. Murkomen, if you're not being able to buy 100,000 worth watch just a few years ago before you joined government, what has changed? What did you strike some big lottery somewhere?
I invented something.
or invented something. You have no business. You're an employee. Those are just employees. This guy used to, from what I understand, used to work. Not to say he's not brilliant, but he was an employee. But just so all of a sudden his fortune changed when he joined government and he moved from this level to that level overnight. Overnight. So yeah, we need to get to that point where they understand they're there for the service of people. They need to be cognizant about wastage, which they clearly don't seem to have. Um, and the president, I'm telling you, they are getting their cue from the president. And
And
we've
this is
got to
these
call
are the points
because
I would have
I don't
presented to them.
understand how, yeah, the president, if I tell you, and just see some of the things that actually I've noticed between Kenya and Rwanda, for example. Like when the president is invited to events, ile kiti anakalia haikuwagi ati kiti tofauti from everyone else. Kiti ya kawaida. I mean, not that it's a comfortable chair.
But it's not so ostentatious kuonyesha hii ni ya mkubwa.
Exactly, ati niyo ya president. No, hiyo kiti yake itakuwa the same that someone in that same hall, hata akiwa uko backbencher, is sitting on the same chair as the president. Haiko tofauti, lakini angalia hapa, ile kiti president ako nayo ni tofauti, ya VP ni tofauti, everyone else sasa maministers ni tofauti. Sasa ukiwa behind unapewa kiti sasa standard, unaweka maybe mtaweka hizo za plastic. So this is a thing, bro, and I see it here, which is so important. I've seen that the president does not get a special chair, and I
You see,
bet it is not by mistake. It's not by mistake. It's about the intention that and the model example that this guy wants to show is to show that everything, I'm not any different from you. I just happen to be the guy who is the president. And what does that mean? And also you notice that kuna uniformity of a certain level of service. There's now a higher standard. And that higher standard is not just reserved for these big men. It's available now for the entire society.
well, that is who we are, and these are some of the issues that the Gen Zs should have put forward in the name of good governance. So,
Exactly.
looking at a number of spaces out there, and okay, I happened to get a call from Lutu family Karibu, the man with the boat, Karibu Sana. I happened to get a call from someone in Twitter. The handle is called Chamacha, Chamacha something, who are coming up with a document that will be spread among the student community, the civil society, and some of it will, and they'll also remember to send it to the government. Is something that will sort of give pointers on what we expect as leadership, because frankly speaking, with this the Gen Z stuff going on, so far no clear message has gotten to the president about what is needed. The only thing we are hearing is Ruto must go, but we can't sell that one. The people in power need to be given a clear direction of what we expect to them, hold them to account, then use that as a basis for a decision in 2027. So we are looking at some of these discussions on various spaces, and my take is this: at this particular time, I've talked to them over and over. Let's get to a situation whereby we start forming spaces based on constituencies or counties where they want to take positions. And my take is stay away from the party line, go independent, but announce yourself as an independent and let the fellow youngsters you in. And you see, it's all about positive disruption. Imagine we have 129 independent candidates, all belonging to Gen Zs. And in the spirit of being realistic, out of 129, 50 go through. That will be the biggest percentage, the biggest quantity of independent candidates that have ever existed in Kenyan political history. And that means it creates, like, if this 50 can go through, next election, I'm also going through. I'm going for it. Because what I know happens, it needs 1, 2, 3 people to do something, they succeed, and the rest follow. And having such a huge number of independent candidates means independence of mindset. Because the problem with the current system, these political parties have no ideology. They have no philosophy. Or do you know the ODM philosophy? Is the Wiper philosophy? No. So there are no philosophies. So what they have is the party leader amesema hivi. Since there's no philosophy, what the party leader says goes. Twende kazi. Mkubwa amesema twende tukule tear gas. Kula tear gas. Mnakula tear gas juu ya nini? We twende tu, mkubwa amesema. So the absence, I think some of these things are done intentionally, because the absence of a philosophy, that means you cannot question the leadership. But the presence of a philosophy, you can now say, mkubwa, hii hapana. Hii hapana, hii hatuwezi kubali hii kitu kama hii fanyike. Yes, as a leader, kuna vitu you can bend, but kuna certain degree of bending utasema hapana. This is non-negotiable. So
Yeah,
these guys will be coming in as independent minded, it also gives them opportunity to check each other. And the youth can also check them. But the current style, wananchi are not checking you. As long as you are okay with the party system, hakuna shida. Utapata nomination and you'll be back in the seat. You'll ride the party wave. Yeah, so
I'm actually wondering. Yes, I think at this point it looks very chaotic. That is this movement. Of course, at the first time when it started, the motivation was at the time the finance bill. Then we later learned that it's not just about the finance bill. The finance bill was just a trigger, which was now speaking about these wider issues of governance, corruption, wastage, etc., etc. But what ended up also happening is it became occupy this, occupy that. Again, it just lost direction. It became protests. As I say, it became the end and be all, because we thought that it would be through protest that we are able to oust the current president. But so I'm just looking at the trajectory of this, and maybe now this points to what maybe the future portends, which I'm thinking maybe this chaos, lack of direction, and this whole thing of lack of leaders and the like is part of that forming process. Like they say, is it when you're doing the forming, what do they call those? There's that process when you're meeting with people and trying to brainstorm something. There's some stages that you go through, and I think the initial stages, are very unclear. There's probably a lot of chaos, and then some order sort of emerges out of that. And probably this is what you're gonna see. I understand the likes of LSK have been conducting this thing they are calling Citizen Assembly. They are both in person and online. I understand they are happening in places like Mpangano. Today I was seeing, people talking of starting a party. I think the Kibe spaces have also been very instrumental in trying to channel people into some practical real action. It was sad to see some of the people that we look up to, the likes of Ekuru or Court and others, were very theoretical in some of their proposals that they were giving. You hear people saying, "Oh yes, let's remove him. There will be no vacuum. We've got a constitution which prescribes what are the steps." But how practical is that in real sense? What have we seen over time? Yes. I found them very careless. I
How?
found
Which
them,
means I'm going to use.
they just think that the guy will just calm down. I mean, it's very naive.
That would
And
be
those
possible in a that would
that I
be
felt
possible in a banana republic. In a banana
exactly.
republic, yes. But here, regardless of the situation you are in, we have systems. They
But
may
you see,
not
that's what
work. They are not
they are
working as
really
efficiently as we wish them to, but they exist.
exactly. That's what I was also saying. How practical are those, uh, call them systems of policy prescriptions that are in the constitution? Yes, for sure. If we go by the constitution, it says this: if this happens, this is the course of action. That is true. It is already prescribed. But how much of that constitution is really being lived out as it is stated? And I was giving an example to someone, as I said, when you look at this protest, they say that yes, you have the right to protest, peaceably assemble, picket. The police should, in essence, support that. But what have we seen in reality? Many a times, these are never peaceful protests. They are very contentious. There are a lot of running battles. There is the police, So there is the culture, what is in practice, what is in what happens in reality. Kwa ground, vitu sio vile zimesemekana. So that's what I was saying. The likes of Ekuru Aukot, I found them to be very theoretical in their prescription or in whatever suggestion they didn't give that real practical on the ground roadmap that the so-called Gen Zs or those that are part of this movement should follow. There's a reason why Kofi Annan had to come in the last time we had the post-election crisis. It's because many of these things, as much as I would imagine that the constitution had some prescriptions in how to handle a contentious election period, some of it had to just be dealt by men hashing it out around a table.
Yeah.
There be some kind of a mediator. Actually, what somebody was saying to me this afternoon is what we lack in Kenya. There's a big lack of trust. That's why you are seeing even the likes of guys are saying, "Oh, Boni, we know he's bought out. Oh, if you take up if you be the moderator of that president space, you've been bought." All this, people are having that mistrust with government and even amongst ourselves. We don't trust one another. Everyone is being seen as though is a sellout. So if you try to do something, even out of goodwill, that's what I was even saying when Raila was probably proposing this national dialogue. They were coming probably from a good place, but people decided no, Raila is only looking out for his stomach, and he probably might have been to some
And,
degree, but
and
he
what
might
is
have
wrong?
also the reality of
And what is wrong with the Raila looking for his stomach when you are stuck on the street? Mnatakani.
correct.
He has a stomach, and you have limited your action on the street. You want William Ruto aje kwa street pia. That is not going to happen. Number one, logistically, the presidential protection unit won't allow him there. Even if he wants to, then the presidential guard will say, pan, you can go there when you've resigned, we'll let you go. But as long as you are sitting here as head of state, the duty of the presidential protection unit won't allow him. They have that mandate. They can even block him in state house. So here's how. The only way, as I suggested, is get on the table, and when you start talking, because you're not a seasoned politician, talk on the direct technical pertinent issues with the predictable outcome. Place him in a situation whereby he now has to retreat and get his technocrats. Now, when you have a discussion between technical to technical people, that means for that period of time, you have done the miracle, you have performed the miracle of keeping the politicians away from the table. Of course, they'll find their way back. But for that 1 hour, no politician will be there. But we've approached the emotions, and then we want good governance, and we want security. That is, in fact, that is the language they use to get into power. That's how they got your vote. You're not going to beat them in that. And I saw it. I witnessed it in that space. They actually fed the political system. They fuel themselves because the political system runs, the Kenyan one runs on emotions and vague statements. We will ensure good governance. We will ensure tightening of our expenditures. Where? Which expenditure? By what percentage are you tightening? We will ensure close monitoring of what? Using who? What are the parameters we'll be monitoring? Those statements are extremely generic. And that's what politics runs on. These guys fed into it directly. I was just like a cow which volunteers to a slaughterhouse. And you don't even have to tie its legs. In a car to hire nichinjeni bus. One thing I know is that government lacks creativity. So if you use with creative solution development, you are now telling them, okay, bring in your technocrats. Now, when you talk, you don't talk with technocrats. You don't talk with politicians. You talk with technocrats. And for those 2-3 hours, you'll have that discussion. Or that 1 week, you'll have talks. You won't hear any politician talking to you. Because when you say, oh, hey, mambo ya hybrid systems, nini, AI monitoring, vitu, the politician will be like, wacha tuite watu wa hii kitu. But and what is a bit disappointing, I thought the Gen Zs were spearheading the technology platform. I've not seen it. Because as governments, governments have tended to be a bit, in fact, governments all over the world, the aspect of technology is brought in by the private sector and the individual innovators. That was the time to sneak it in. Unfortunately, we didn't see it, and the final, I'll say, the final bullet in the chamber will be these guys now running for elective positions. And then again, let us also be realistic. Let us be very realistic. Let us be, I don't want to say mature or rather, but let us be just, let me speak to realistic. Channel inaweza fungwa tuzubaye hapa. Some of these problems did not begin with this government.
Yeah.
There are places where you go to some constitutional, go to some counties, hospitals you find those hospitals perennially have no medicine. William Ruto has no say in that. So if this pressure started being implemented at constituency level, because if we started this a while ago, this bill would not have gone through. Because the people who are very responsible, that the president, hata kama you are the party leader, the crafting of this thing is completely wrong. We will not have this problem. We are forgetting that it is the majority numbers in parliament who pass these things. That is the only way, because this tulitaka democracy. And now you have to operate with the system.
Actually, there's somebody who said, I think he mentioned, he said the Gen Z is blaming everyone else but not themselves.
Yes.
And I guess this is also to mean that we do have generally a systemic issue. I think we've been caught up in emotion. And I've seen guys that I even know on these Twitter streets. I see them having become too emotional because now, for some reason, I think we've just decided if we have a problem, it is Ruto. It could be a personal problem, but everything is Ruto. If you're jobless, it is Ruto. Ruto can go out tomorrow, but kama hujajituma, you might still remain jobless.
No, you see,
and I'm not trying to be sort of, how would I say it? Is it empathetic or sympathetic or not understanding? Yes, there are some things at a macro level, a president and and our national leaders can influence, which can then spur employment and the like. But with that said, even at times when there's the best of economies, we've seen just people that are just not responsive, not really taking full
Sasa
ownership of
ukija
themselves.
kama keep up turning to work late, kila mara mnafutwa kazi, unataka president
So
akusaidie.
na hiyo ndio shida. So and when you hear of that emotion, that how people have just become very caught up in that euphoria of a Ruto must go or whatever, you realize it is a lot of it. I could actually say a lot of it is a personal disappointment in themselves. So that's part of it. As much as there's some wider issues to fight and agitate for, a lot of this emotion that you're seeing in online spaces is born out of someone just being disappointed. So people just need, as you said, to be very practical. Yes, Ruto can come and go, but your circumstance might not change if you don't take full responsibility of yourself. And there are systemic issues, not personality based. This corruption we are talking about didn't start with Ruto. It's been there.
Didn't start with Ruto.
It's there in Uhuru time. It's been there in Kibaki time. It's been there
And
in
also,
time. So there's a
you can
culture and a system that has perpetuated all these ills that we are seeing in our society.
also, yes, you can have what you call that. Is it called that Arabian story of Aladdin? You rub a
Mhm.
lamp, then you give you 3 wishes. You can wish
Yeah,
Aladdin because that, that lamp. You said, "I want Ruto to go." Poof, he goes.
yeah, the magic.
But you still vote for that MP who passes bills
Yes,
not reading them.
yes,
Sasa
100%.
umesaidika vipi? And the people actually hiyo bill walipitisha tu because it's a chama and they didn't read it. They voted for it. So that's the it's like boxing. If you go to boxing or combat sports, na unapigana with emotions, that is a knockout coming in your direction. So yes, as long as the current leader, like any other leader, has his issues, may I insist, if we did our job properly at constituency level, would have people who would have read that bill and said, "I apart, something is wrong." Somebody would have ganged up and said, "Mr. President, you want to bill ni ya recoup money, what no not. You are the one in charge of the government. Can you repatriate the money that was stolen?" Si tulikuwa tunaambiwa hapa, I think during the last government, 2 billion is being stolen every day. Something like that. Zirudishwe. Whatever property has been purchased, you were sold off. Now, these are the questions these MPs should have been asking. But since you went and vote, is it called 6 piece or whatever piece it is? Una pick tu kama una hata uangalii jina, hata you don't even look at you just look at yellow. Yellow. Hiyo part ingine kama was it what color? Red or what? Red. So isakuwa ni mtu ambaye you realize you voted for someone kazi yake ilikuwa ni kuiba socks kwa drying line, ndio umempigia kura. You want that person to read a bill? It is a systemic problem that starts from grassroots. And if we go emotionally, you're not going to solve anything. You're not going to solve anything. It has to be very practical. You have to see what role did you play during last election. Ulipokea shilingi 200 kupigia mtu kura? Well, you are part of it.
Your power.
Did you beat up someone because yeye ni wa chama ile ukarusha mawe ukapigana ukapigania candidate wako? That's what type of candidates makes people fight for him. A good candidate will tell his supporters, if you see any aggression, please pull back. We'll wage our wars on the ballot box. So if you are voting for someone who operates with goons and be jeshi and whatnot, you are also part of the system. You are messing up. So yes, I repeat, the current president has his issues, but these issues existed long before he came into power. They are, in fact, some of the major scandals that have messed up the republic, he was never part of. So let's tackle these things. The people who are voting for MP level, senator, governor, we actually once voted for someone because of dimples. Wewe utasaidika vipi ndugu yangu? So normally say the number one person, and this I normally apply to myself also, not something I say to. Whenever I look at, I want to question an issue. Number one place I look at in the mirror. Huko
100%.
mjinga wa kwanza mara nyingi huwa anakuanga. Kwa hiyo kio, look in the mirror. Did you react emotionally? What did you once you are sure that this was your contribution to the mess, number one, start by correcting yourself. Now that you are clean, audit yako imeenda sawa, now go to the next step. But his story so must go. Angalia Raila ameingia akajitetea tumbo lake, amewahi. Si ndio? So Raila has slaughtered his people in. Plain and simple. Kuna cha nini wala ni, it's politics. Like in Formula One, like the late great Ayrton Senna used to say, if you no longer go for a gap ahead of you, you're no longer a racing driver. Raila being a politician, he saw a gap. He has a pengo. Now he has two his head honchos inside there. Joho will be having flags na mabendera hapo, watu wakimpigia masalute, and the rest of the wakinopia wandai. Now sasa, why? Because you're not, the Gen Z refuse to feel it. Leaderless. What tribeless, I'm okay with that. Leaderless. I only know two entities in this world that operate without leaders: flies and cockroaches.
I was listening to, I think there was a politician who came on Kibe Space, and he was saying how vital it is for them to, in some sense, remain leaderless. And maybe we might not be able to exhaust that convo right here now. But it struck my mind, you have seen how these open source software projects operate.
Yeah. They sort of mutate as contributions come in.
Exactly. And I wonder if that's the approach we can take. But how do you develop that and ensure people are, in some sense, of the same mind?
But an open source has a target. An open source has a use. And even if it's open source, hizo contributions ziko na sectors. Kuna open source huyo anadili na UI, huyo anadili na various aspects of computation, as my little programming knows. Kuna various aspects of computation. Kuna certain who ana contribute on loops. Mwingine anadili na counters. Mwingine anadili kama there's a national NLP language processing unit, natural language processor iko pale. Mwingine anadili na what we call vetting of inputs. Even if it's open source, it is structured. That structure ikikosekana, you turn into a swarm of flies. Have you seen? I've seen kwa goats kuna kwele mbuzi kubwa called beberu ndo the pack tends to follow. I've never seen that in flies. Naruka tu twende kazi. So that absence of course, if I go back to Formula One, at the start of a race, it tends to be chaotic. And you may end up finding very unlikely characters ahead of the pack. But as the race progresses, now the bigwigs of the race now take over. Yes, we had that element of surprise. MPs being flushed out of parliament. That is like we've grabbed the attention. Now that you have your attention, what next? Sasa hapo kwa what next? Tumekwama kwa hiyo loop sasa. Must go. People say, go where?
Because the protests have definitely given the Gen Z a voice.
Yes.
And even an invitation to go to have a seat at the table. Now, yes. Who do they invite? They can't invite the entire. Yeah. So anyway, yeah.
And they cannot invite because there is no philosophy associated with the group. And I ask them, what is your philosophy? there are no actionable items on the table for people to work on, items that have what we call a predictable outcome. Hakuna. And at this level, we need a maximum of only three. Three are enough. Because you want to turn the country around, si ndio? Hii si kiosk ambayo unahitaji vitu vingi, paka rangi huku, badilisha shelf, sijui ni. No. Three novel ideas. And it's not like it's game shot, but somehow you'll notice a detectable turn in events. You'll actually see the ship. Unaona hii meli, the ship is somehow, so it won't be like a race car skidding all over. No, you'll just notice that yenyewe tumeanza kuenda upande huu mwingine. That was never there. It has never been there. And whenever I get into space, that's what I try to push to them. So, man, 1 hour sharp on the dot, unrehearsed content. Can we shout out
Saturday?
our people? Loot family, the man with the boat. Nasema asante sana for showing up. Very nice, very interesting way of living. Interesting, but I prefer to stay in a house. Asante sana. Maybe an RV, ile recreational vehicle, ile gari nakaa kama that, maybe. Ini boat, acha. Sharif Mustafa, lone wolf audience, always there, always present. Nasema asante sana for being here. And I can see my rechargeable lamp imeanza kuisha. That is my cue to say adios.
See ya.
See ya.